Hello, this is Dr. Stanley Lang. Welcome to this broadcast, and the topic is common mistakes that are made on the ketogenic diet. And the other part of the topic is the healthy ketogenic program, which I'd like to talk to you about briefly at the end. But the common mistakes, the reason I want to share on this today is that I actually saw 3 patients today that were making common mistakes, and common in the sense that I'm seeing them more and more, both online and as patients attempt to do the ketogenic diet with resources off of the internet. They're kind of doing it on their own. A few years ago, my patients really didn't do the ketogenic diet unless it was something that I suggested to them, which is not that I'm trying to say that that's the way it should be, but that was the way it was. So I had somewhat control over guiding them into doing the ketogenic diet in a way that at least I thought was healthy and would work for them. But now more and more people are discovering the ketogenic diet, or what they think is the ketogenic diet, and they're getting a lot of their stuff off of the internet, and they're getting it from diverse places. So increasing numbers of my patients are getting resources from multiple or ideas from multiple places, not from a book in particular, not from a particular program. And so they're having an increasing number of mistakes that are being made in terms of doing the ketogenic program. And that's because there's a lot of bad information out there on how to safely do the ketogenic program or how to properly do the ketogenic program. So I'm just going to review a few of the common mistakes that are happening and provide a solution for you if this is something that you have some interest in. So the most common mistake is that people are still eating too many carbs, and they're really not in ketosis, and they're not testing. So if you're going to do the ketogenic diet seriously, you need to do testing to know that you're in ketosis. There is absolutely no way to know for sure, and urine testing is not an accurate way to do that. Now, it'll get you in the ballpark, but it won't tell you for sure that your ketone levels in your bloodstream are sufficient. Now, there's a significant divergence in terms of people that are considered experts in the ketogenic diet on how to do this monitoring. Most people that consider themselves experts recommend doing the blood tests with a meter that is similar to a glucose meter. Now, the advantage of this is that it can be highly accurate and can give you right now information. The disadvantage is it's very expensive to do over the long run if you do a lot of testing. The alternative is a technology that is called Ketonics, which is a breath analyzer. Now, most people poo-poo this program or this strategy as being inaccurate. My opinion is that it can be very accurate as long as you know what you're doing. And the nice thing about the Ketonics tool is that you can use it over and over again, and it doesn't cost any more to use it 1,000 times than it costs to use it one time. So in the long run, in terms of monitoring how a person is doing, the Ketonics gives a lot of good information, but it's more of a trend line. If you want to know whether you're in ketosis right now, the Ketonics is not the right tool for you. If you want to know in general, are you in ketosis, and looking back 6 hours ago or 12 hours ago, where were you at? The Ketonics is a good tool for that because it'll tell you that. And number two, the price doesn't go up because you just buy it once and it works over and over and over again. So I like Ketonics for that reason. I look for things that people are going to do and succeed with, not what is technically necessarily the very best thing, not the most purest thing, but what works for most people. And the Ketonics tool works for most people. And urine testing inaccurately assesses where you're at. And blood testing, as I said, is the most precise, but a lot of people don't like to stick themselves. And number two, it's expensive. Even the less expensive blood testers are still expensive in the long run if you're going to do a lot of testing. With Ketonics, I can test myself 10 times a day, and it doesn't bother me that I've been wasting resources. So the first big mistake is that people are eating too many carbs, and I saw a patient today that is actually, the only carbs he's eating are the right ones, which is a small, in his mind, a small number of berries, but it was way too many berries. Once I heard how many berries he was eating, it was clear that he wasn't in ketosis. Now, he had moved himself to a very low glycemic diet, and that was very good, and he was starting to reap the benefits of that. But as far as the goals that he had to decrease inflammation in his body, he wasn't getting the benefit of the ketogenic diet with the anti-inflammatory effect that happens from the ketone bodies themselves. The beta-hydroxybutyrate is a very powerful anti-inflammatory molecule, as well as being the main ketone that fuels our bodies when we're in ketosis. So that's the first thing I want to mention. People are eating too many carbs, even when they think they've cut way back, and they're essentially just eating a low glycemic diet that is not that dissimilar from what I teach most of my patients anyway, but not low glycemic enough. You have to cut back the carbs so much that you are forcing the body to move into using fat for fuel because there's not enough sugar to go around, and so the body is forced into this state. And generally, that's going to be down around the 16 to 18 grams of carbs a day. And so a lot of people are eating way more than that. You hear these numbers that go all the way up to 50 grams of carbs as being ketogenic. And I'm not going to say it's impossible. And as other people that know a lot more about the ketogenic diet than I do have said, in the end, you have to test. You don't know without testing. But in my experience, you've got to be kind of below 20 grams or you're probably not going to be in ketosis most of the time. The second major mistake that I want to mention is that people are not getting enough of the essential fats. Now, there are two essential fats. One is abbreviated ALA, stands for alpha linoleic acid, and it is present in very high amounts in chia and in flaxseed and in lesser amounts in nuts. And there's some other foods also that it's present in. It's an essential fat because your body can't make it. If your body can't make it, then we call it an essential fat. And it's also a critical fat. Your body absolutely needs it, especially your brain cells need it. And so we used to think that the body just took this ALA and made other stuff out of it. We now know that about 40% or more is actually integrated into your brain cells, assuming you've got it there. And most people don't have nearly enough. And it's kind of a paradox that people are on the ketogenic diet, which is a high-fat diet, and yes, they're missing the critical fat, which is this essential fat, this omega-3. Now, the omega-6 essential fat is abbreviated LA, or is otherwise known as linolenic acid, and it's a lot easier to get. It's present in high amounts in most of the nuts. It's present in other foods that you can also consume, including avocados, are a very rich source of LA. There's a misunderstanding that this essential fat is pro-inflammatory. It is not pro-inflammatory. Now, it feeds into part of the system of our body that balances inflammation against anti-inflammation, but the LA itself is not pro-inflammatory unless it's damaged. And that's where the confusion comes from, because most of the omega-6 essential fat, the LA that people get in our diet, comes from vegetable oils, and they are almost all damaged because of the extraction method. And that's where the research came from that showed that these are pro-inflammatory oils. They're not if they're not damaged. Again, they do feed into a part of the pathway that creates pro-inflammatory chemicals that are part of our immune system, but by themselves, they're part of the anti-inflammatory system, and they also are needed for the brain. So without these essential fats in the right balance, this is a critical mistake that people make. And that's one of the things I wanted to make a point about this. Another critical mistake that people make is missing the opportunities to get good fiber without blowing yourself out of the ketosis state. So fiber and carbs kind of go hand in hand, but you can get fiber in ways that don't provide too many digestible carbs. And that's a big mistake when you don't do that, because fiber plays a major detoxifying role. And there are some diets out there that people just are completely ignoring the detoxifying effect of fiber. I think in the long run, there will be a metabolic price to pay for that. Now, we don't have research on these various very low fiber diets, so I'm not going to say too much about it, except to say that there is good research to show the benefit of fiber. and you can get significant amounts of fiber without throwing yourself out of ketosis. So these are some of the major mistakes that people make. There are others that I'm seeing out there, but I want you to be at least aware of these things. And I want you to be aware that we have created a simple resource that's called the Healthy Ketogenic Program. Now, this was not designed to teach people how to do the ketogenic diet. It's designed to teach people how to do the ketogenic diet safely. So it's meant to plug into any version of the ketogenic diet you tend to be following at this point, and it focuses on the major mistakes that people are making. And I would bet you that you're making at least one of them, and it will impact on your long-term health if you keep doing it in the long run. So I encourage you to get the Healthy Ketogenic Program to make sure that you're covering the bases adequately. It will help you to have a better handle on all of the key controversial areas of the ketogenic diet, and give you specific guidelines on how much of the essential fats you need to be consuming and how you can do it in a way that doesn't throw you out of ketosis. So if you're following the ketogenic diet, that's a great idea. I encourage you to do it. It's very healthy, but you need to do it in a healthy way if you want to do it long term. Now, some people do it short term. You don't have to worry about the details for the short term. But if you're going to do it long term, it's very important to pay attention to these details and several other key issues that are being ignored by a lot of people, in increasing numbers of people, because they don't know any better, as evidenced by the patients that I'm seeing who are basically self-taught off of the internet without any particular one tool. So remember, you don't know if you're in ketosis if you don't test. And urine testing isn't accurate enough. You need to do some sort of testing, and so it's either going to be blood testing or a breath analyzer. And if you're using the breath analyzer, there are correct ways to do it and wrong ways to do it, but you need to test to know for sure. And if you want the full benefit of the ketogenic diet, you need to pretty much be in ketosis almost all the time, at least for a while. So I wish you well. God bless. And to grab that program, unless you feel like you know everything there is to know about the ketogenic diet. I wish you well.